I'm excited about Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia. And before I get up to leave, I just want to be very brief about this. So someone asked Keith Thurman, said, look, man, you think that this fight will catapult you into the status of a Floyd Mayweather where you win this fight if you do win? And Keith Thurman had a very sensible answer. He said, first of all, Floyd Mayweather took many years to build up to become the pound for pound and the pay-per-view star and just the star in boxing, the superstar in boxing that he was. And he's right. Mayweather had beaten so many notable fighters, from Genaro Hernandez to Diego Corrales to Jesus Chavez to Jose Luis Castillo to Zab Judah to Carlos Baldomir, and that still didn't make him a superstar pay-per-view star. It was when he fought Oscar De La Hoya, which was 11 years into his career. 11 years into his career. He was 30 years old or 31 years old when he fought Oscar De La Hoya. Then after that, he became a mainstream star. So there are a number of things people need to understand, and I think Keith Thurman makes a very, very good point. Keith Thurman right now is not even, his career has begun in 2007. He's not even 10 years into his career, November 2007. Same thing for Danny Garcia. These guys are stars in boxing, but they're not superstars, and they're not pay-per-view stars, and they're not pay-per-view superstars. And the reason is because to become a pay-per-view superstar, it has to build up. You have to become a star first, then you have to become a superstar, and then you get on a pay-per-view event and you deal with a pay-per-view, and then after that you become a pay-per-view star, and then after that you become a pay-per-view superstar. Take for instance Canelo Alvarez's career. Canelo Alvarez fought on pay-per-view undercards of Floyd Mayweather for a good period of time. Then he fought Floyd Mayweather, who was a superstar, a pay-per-view superstar. So he was able to do that to catapult his own pay-per-view. Then he could have his own pay-per-view event. He had one against Angulo. He did pretty well. And then he had another one against, I think it was Kirkland. I think Kirkland was not a pay-per-view event. But then after that, Canelo Alvarez faced Miguel Cotto, another pay-per-view star. And because of that, that catapulted him to a whole other level. So the only guy right now in boxing whose pay-per-view numbers are doing well is Canelo Alvarez. Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev as a pay-per-view didn't make any sense. Gennady Golovkin versus, I can't remember, I think it was David Lemieux as a pay-per-view didn't make much sense. Because these guys, they're stars, but they're not superstars. You have to become a superstar, and then you go to pay-per-view and try to become a pay-per-view star. And then after that, you try to become a pay-per-view superstar, and it takes years to do that. Okay? When you think of guys like Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, it'll take them at least 2 to 3 more years before they can come to that status. And that's just the way things work. You listen to Steven Espinoza talk about the fights that have been on pay-per-view recently. They're not pay-per-view fights. They shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. It should have been normal. And the reason why that makes sense is because, again, these guys are being built up into the pay-per-view model. Then you start having pay-per-views where they're worthy to happen. So HBO jumped the gun on that. And I think Keith Thurman makes a valid point. And if you look at Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s career as well, not only was he, first of all a star, but his first pay-per-view event I think was against Arturo Gatti, if I'm not mistaken. Arturo Gatti was a ridiculously good pay-per-view star. And that's why, even after that pay-per-view event, Floyd's numbers in his pay-per-view numbers didn't go that high up. And you can go ahead and check out his pay-per-view numbers right now. Let me just do that for you. And you'll see that his very first pay-per-view event, which was against Arturo Gatti, which is somewhere here. Okay, here it is. So this was against Arturo Gatti, and this is all he made. It was 365 pay-per-view buys. Only $16.5 million in pay-per-view revenue. Okay? 365 pay-per-view buys is high, but that's because of Gatti. Gatti pulled that in. And he did so well against Gatti that when he faced Zab Judah, he made a little bit more pay-per-view buys. Okay? He also had a pay-per-view buy against Carlos Baldomir. I didn't know that. So he had 4 pay-per-view events before he faced Oscar De La Hoya. And that made 2.4 million pay-per-view buys. And then he faced Ricky Hatton, which made a little under 1 million pay-per-view buys. Okay? So his pay-per-view figures really went up. Then when he fought Marquez again, a big notable name, 1.1 million pay-per-view buys. Mosley, huge. These are huge pay-per-view numbers. Okay? And the only reason that happened was because of Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya was able to boost Mayweather's career into these numbers. You're not going to get these numbers just like that. With Alvarez, you can go ahead and check out Alvarez's pay-per-view numbers. Maybe they're around, I don't know. Let me see. You will see that Alvarez also, he has decent pay-per-view numbers. Because he did not beat Floyd Mayweather, his pay-per-view buys are not that huge. Can't really find his pay-per-view numbers. It's a pity. But the point anyway is this. Alvarez has really solid pay-per-view numbers. Nigel Cotto has really solid pay-per-view numbers. Mayweather, throughout his career, has had very solid pay-per-view numbers. Manny Pacquiao benefited from Floyd Mayweather's pay-per-view numbers, right? Because they rode off of Mayweather's coattails. You know, people say, oh, Mayweather ducked Manny Pacquiao. Well, the fact of the matter is, Mayweather tried to fight Manny Pacquiao a number of times. In 2010, he tried to make the fight with Pacquiao. And Pacquiao, they chose to fight Joshua Clottey instead of conceding to the demands for having drug testing at least 40 days from the fight. At most 40 days from the fight. You know, in the end, Pacquiao had to concede to having testings right up to the fight date and after. And that's the way how it goes. And my point anyway is this. At no time did Mayweather ever try to avoid fighters. It's always been the other way around. You look at the guy's career, you're going to see these are facts, okay? It's sad to see Mayweather going to town, like I said, on Andre Ward, though. I find that in poor taste. When you look at the facts, this is the case. Now, Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia is really interesting because these guys match up really nicely. Both of them started their careers in November of 2007. Both of them are 28 years of age. Both of them are, you know, got good power in their hands. Both of them are undefeated fighters. Both of them are world champions. Okay? So there's a lot they have in common. Alright? The only thing is Keith Thurman's been a career welterweight, but they both have run about the same dimensions. 5'7.5", 69-inch reach. Danny Garcia's 5'8.5", 68.5-inch reach. Okay? But you look at them, they round about have about the same amount of fights as well. Danny Garcia has faced more guys at the championship level than Keith Thurman has. Okay? He faced Lamont Peterson, who was a world champion. He faced Matisse, who was the WB. Okay, he wasn't a world champion. Sorry, my bad. Eric Morales was a world champion. Amir Khan was a world champion. Okay? And Kendall Holtz wasn't the world champion when he faced him, but he faced some pretty good names. Like, he faced Nate Campbell. He faced Kendall Holt. These were all world champions at some point in time. Eric Morales, Amir Khan, Zab Judah, Lucas Matisse was not a world champion. Lamont Peterson, Paulie Malignaggi, Robert Guerrero. These are all former world champions. Okay, or world champions at the time he faced them. Then you have Keith Thurman. He faced names such as Sean Porter, was a former world champion. That was a really good test. I'd love to see Sean Porter versus Danny Garcia as well. Louis Collazo, former world champion. Robert Guerrero. He also faced Julio Diaz, was a former world champion, and Jan Zabic and Carlos Quintana. Okay, so it's not like these two guys are that different from each other. And I'm excited about this fight, but I like the interview with Keith Thurman, so I just want to elaborate on that a little bit. That becoming a superstar or even a star on the level of a Mayweather also had dominated his era, or dominated the top of his particular division, his particular sport, for 17 years, I think it is. 17 years. He'd been in boxing for 18 years, is it? Is it 18? 18 years? Or 19 years? Okay, he'd been in boxing for 19 years, dominated for 17 years. So when he became world champion back in 1998, for 17 years, this guy had been on top of boxing. You can just see how ridiculous this looks. You see all the championship fights there. Alright, so people talk about picking and choosing and all of this nonsense. And I've already done videos on that where obviously Mayweather didn't pick and choose anybody. But I just wanted to didn't pick and choose, but he picked and choose the best when he could pick and choose, which was somewhere after 2006, after the Zab Judah fight. So at the end of the day, people who were saying that he avoided fighters and stuff, that's just baloney. It's just baloney. And I just wanted to go into all of that. I think Keith Thurman was very much on the money with that. And I look forward to this fight with Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia. You guys have a great.